Good evening, everyone. There's some weird ass energy going on in here, and usually, if I'm feeling something, one of the other readers in my collective will bring it up and be like, yo, blah blah, talk about the energy, and it's always so fucking accurate and spot on that I'm like, you know what? If I'm experiencing this right now, maybe some of y'all are too. So maybe I can just take one for the team this time. I'm trying to get my camera to actually be the right size, because if it's the full size of my computer screen, it's my face is way too big. Weird vibes for me were personally triggered by, holiday weekends, family get-togethers, and since we're all out here doing witchcraft, and our families are Christian, there's some tension in the waters. I've been sleeping like shit. I mean, I got a kid, but even he's been sleeping like shit. So even he, I think, is picking up on weird shit going on. And so last night I got about a solid hour of sleep. I mean, what more could you want, honestly? I'm seeing stink bugs everywhere, and I honestly don't want to fucking talk about it because I'm traumatized right now. Archangel Michael is also super significant. Hecate is very significant. Black dogs, birds, specifically mourning doves, and phoebes, bald eagles, vultures. So if you've seen any of this shit, maybe this will resonate with you. Loki's been around, and your mom's been causing some drama. What the hell is that? Is there ever? Okay, so get yourself some snacks. Buckle up. And let's see what the fuck comes up. Okay. Personally, my family has their Easter dinner tomorrow, and all day I've been I don't want to go. I don't. And the energy has gone from my mood has gone from feeling a weight being lifted to also feeling super depressed because a weight is lifted at the thought of not having to go sit around with my family, because I stick out like a sore thumb but am ignored at the same time, and it's so uncomfortable. Jesus. I've also been breaking a lot of fucking nails. Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe that's just a me problem. But this Lord of the Rings deck honestly has been very spot on when it comes to talking about my family, as well as I've got this cat deck up here, but it mainly because it talks about clans not welcoming outsiders, not liking things that they're not used to. Also, this Lord of the Rings deck was written by Casey. My son's name is Casey. He, as you can tell, had something to do with shuffling this deck up. And so, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it like that. Whatever. That's how it's supposed to be, I guess. So, I guess I'm not really sure what my question is, except for what the fuck is up, Kyle, you know? Kind of about, not what does it mean, because we all know we're breaking generational shit. But how's it gonna like affect the future? What's like the outcome of this like walking away from family? Are we doing the right thing? Like, and like, I'm horrible at breathing. Okay. This one's shuffled, but I feel like there's a couple other decks here I need. I'm thinking my ancestors deck. I feel like this has a lot to do with the energy, with Courtney Hannigan's video that she did right around the new year. I kind of started the whole, like, it almost became like a series, but like, Lisa Lee, 616, and me have been like, we're all in the same collective, so like, we're all kind of getting our own little dots and sharing them and trying to connect them and shit. So, me and Lisa have both been talking to Jesus, which is interesting because this is the card that I just saw, which reminds me of like Mary, or like anybody that followed Jesus, anyone from that time period. So, I need to get a couple cards from this deck to like start with. Just to see if we can have a starting place. A lot of times my, like, when I pull cards, it ends up kind of being more of like a story than anything else. Breathe. Okay. So I just split the deck, you know, and this was the one on the other side. That's interesting. I feel like I need to pull from the back first, though. These bees are literally everywhere. Be happy. This could say that this all kind of started in the summer, actually. For me, that was when I moved. That was when I started to like embrace the witch inside me, even though I kind of went against everything I'd ever been taught. That's when I got like my first decks. That's when I started doing shit. Something I did back in July. There's a theme that I will kind of stay in an area long enough to like heal something and then I'll move on. And I was living at my parents' house and I was like, I wanted to get out of there so bad because it was so toxic. But it was like I needed to like do something first. And I ended up like discovering that I was a medium. And I live out in the middle of goddamn nowhere. But there's like Native American, like there's like reservations, but like all the names of like the creeks, the roads, the towns, it's all like native sounding. And so then you look around and it's all fucking Frank Gallagher waving a Trump 2024 flag and you're like, what the fuck is going on? So anyways, I connected to I don't know if she would be considered a shaman, like a female, like tribal chief is the energy I got. Which literally this card, it's like this is her. And we have this giant pine tree out in my backyard, my parents' backyard, and it was like she was buried under there. And I still can like communicate with her. She like became one of my guides almost. And she just told me, she was just like, yeah, well, how do you think that tree is so fucking awesome? Anyways, or like, what's sustaining that? Anyways, so I started talking to her about what happened. She like referenced back to like the first Thanksgiving. When I was a kid, I had this dream, that I was just kind of like outside wandering around or whatever, and I look up and see this like tornado. But I'm gonna show you this painting I did a little bit ago because it's the same like colors. So I don't know if you can see how this is like kind of like pink and orange and whatever. And in my dream, like I was still a kid at this point. I was like maybe like 12 in the dream, and I like look up into the like cornfield, and there's a literal like fire like this, like tornado, but like sideways, like rolling towards my house. And I was like, oh my god, what the fuck? Holy shit. And I mean, I was 12, so I was just like, I didn't know how to swear yet. So, I ran inside and like, guys, oh my god, guys. And my family just kind of like, completely ignores me. And then, I mean, I woke up. And she was telling me that's what the fuck happened to that land. I mean, the land has always been kind of like weird. The house has been haunted. And I was trying to figure out like what was wrong with the house. And that's kind of how I ended up connecting with her. Because they cursed the fuck out of the land. And so the white man there, she was telling me that like stole their property and moved in. They were doomed. They were never gonna find happiness there. It was like their karma. So that's why in my parents' house is like 200 years old. So it's like they wiped out the tribe and then they just built their own little farm on there. And by the time like my parents got the house, the farmland had been like turned into a campground, and so like just like that was 1 acre with the house belonged to my parents, but like the whole campground and my parents' house was all like this tribe's land. Let me remember. So I had like visions of that. Like I had a vision like when I was like talking to her, like I could just see people like mothers just picking up their babies and like trying to run for their lives, and like everything's on fire everywhere, complete chaos, screaming, and all that. And after like I noticed this, I would drive around everywhere and notice the trees, especially in the winter. They were like dead trees, but they were like black, and it literally just looked like skeletons, like charred skeletons of the trees. And it was like something that once I noticed, I couldn't unsee it. So I was like, okay, so what is my role here then? Basically, I'm like, because if it's the white men that are cursed, and they're like, oh no, not you, and I was like, okay, and I think I have like some ancestry, like not in the last bit of tea I got was like there were ancestors, what's the word? Basically trafficked, stolen. You know, people like the white men would come in and then just like take. They would trade. They would make trades. Remember how in our history books we read about how they like traded with the Indians? They took their women, and it was kind of like that's where you came from. And I don't know if that's like me or if that's like my soul, but and then they also are like, and also of course you're fine because you're actually trying to fucking help. Anyways, I've been collecting rocks since I was a little kid, and I found this forever ago. Like, after I started talking to this tribal chief, I went back and looked, and I had remembered that forever ago. My mom was like, "Hey, there's a weird bucket of rocks in the garage. You know whose that is?" I was like, "I don't know." And then I like remembered, like years later, I was like, "Wait a second, I think that's my bucket of rocks." And I found this rock, which when you look at it at first, you'll be like, "It's a rock." But when you hold this, you can feel the energy of everybody that has ever held it. Like, it feels like it's been held by a lot of people. And I mean, the edges are super smooth. And I mean, my hands are way too fucking small, but there's a little dent here. And so one of the things this rock was used for was like a finger was put here and they like held it like that and like used it to like, you know, grind up shit. My hands are too little, and like literally there was like a guy that this belonged to him, and every time I like hold this, he's just like it's so cute when you hold that, because it's so, my hands are so small, and he's like, it's so cute like watching you hold that. Anyways, but there's literally like dents for like every finger here. There's also where is it? Like right on here, there's like, you can see like where they're like sharpened blades and like started fires and all that kind of shit. And at first, I was like, oh shit, I gotta give all this stuff back. But like after I helped him do a bunch of shit, basically. Like, I used to walk in that campground all the time, and there's a creek that runs down there, and I started learning the story. I think I wrote like a letter or something. I don't even remember everything. Basically, I did a whole ass like healing ritual with like the whole land, and then I like went down to the creek and I like ran my hands through my hair. I had like crushed up some amethyst, and I just kind of like sprinkled it in the creek to like be like, okay, this is like love, light, healing, shit. And the second I did that and went like that, I felt like, I'm getting chills talking about this. It was like an entire blanket of like spirits was just kind of like picture like a blanket, and then you like just pinch the one and pull it, and it was like that funneled up, and it was like all of the spirits. And then I looked down at my feet. I've never found an arrowhead before in my life. I looked down at my feet and there was an arrowhead right there, and I was like, what the fuck? And I like picked it up, and I heard the voice of somebody that was like back up at like my parents' house. Like, I was pretty far down, like in there, like down the trail and whatever, but I could tell the energy was from like way out there. And I picked the arrowhead up, and he was like, that's mine. He was like, I was down here by the creek and working on it, because it was like part of it, like it wasn't quite like finished, like he'd been like making it. And so like it wasn't completely, on like the one end, it wasn't completely finished. And he was like, yeah, I was down here by the creek doing my thing, and then he heard all the screaming and stuff, so he just kind of dropped everything and ran. And so I went up there, and they put in some solar panels on like behind my parents' property, like the campground owners did. And I've always kind of felt like, so I was like cleansed that whole thing, and I think that's kind of one of the things they really wanted, because white man technology kind of, that's kind of like a sidetrack, whatever, conspiracy rant. But anyways, these solar panels are like fenced off, okay? And I go up there, and there's like a bird, I think. yeah, there was a bird just like sitting on the one fence post. And I was like, oh, okay, over there. So I brought the arrowhead over and I like put it down. And I was like, here, I think you lost something or something like that. Or I was like, I believe this belongs to you. And then I just heard like, thank you. And then he was like, okay. Then they were like, yeah, just keep it, just keep it. And then, like I couldn't even tell if like they were my ancestors. It was kind of like they adopted me. That's kind of what the feeling is. And now if I'm ever like getting spooked out in my house, or if I'm having a bad day, if somebody's pissing me off, and I can just like hold this fucking rock, and then I can just feel the energy of everybody that like they have my back so hard. Anyway, so this summer that happened. That's relevant. And I was able to like transform my gifts, unveil my gifts. Which is interesting with shapeshifters is like, you know what a shapeshifter is in Native American culture. Guardian angels, you're not alone. It's like, that's when I had like a massive, I don't know if I would call it awakening, but this is interesting because, triangles have always been super important. And like this one, the triangles connect like eyes, the sun, and the moon, which that's when I started to see the dark and the light, because you know how like shapeshifters are like something people are fucking terrified of. But like then I was able to kind of learn what actually was going on. And like I would drive around in the woods and whatever. And I would just drive around through the back roads and stuff all around this area, because it like belonged to this tribe that was literally like decimated. Like I can't even find any like really like history or anything about it, because they were completely wiped out. They're gone. There's not a trace. They're gone. It wasn't like, oh, this tribe was one of the ones that was sent and merged with it year ago or whatever. It's like the tribe does not exist. And then this makes me think of like Lisa made a video a while ago that said something like, you found them and you were not supposed to, and they have no idea how you did, but you found them. You found them, basically. And that's exactly what I thought of. Meanwhile, I healed them in the land and whatever. I helped them. Like, I feel weird saying this. Like, a whole ass fucking tribe of people, like, ascend. Like, I helped them, like, you know what mediums do. The word is gone right now. And, like, and it was kind of like, and with that, it's like, this was like something that they kind of like offered me. It's almost like that's what this like rock is. What's the word? Like totem animal. And now it's like when I see deer, you know what a not deer is. And it's like if I see deer, I'll be driving around and I will see like herds of deer like I've never seen before in my life. Like I've always seen like a few deer when I was driving, but this is like every 20 seconds I'll come across, like every time I turn and there's a new cornfield, there's like a massive herd of deer with like 30 to 50 deer. So like in like a 20-minute drive I'll see like 300 deer. And like the first time I saw them all, I was like, why the fuck are there so many deer? And well, I think I said that out loud. I was like, why the fuck are there so many deer? And this one deer, what's weird, it's like when I was driving by, they would all like look and just kind of look at me, and the one deer looked me dead in my eyes. It was like, we are not deer. And it wasn't like a threatening way of saying it. It was like, we're not deer. You helped us, kind of thing. And so now we are here helping you and being like your eyes like everywhere kind of. And that day I was driving, I drove around another turn and then there was like a massive, oh shit, that's what these white feathers are. Okay, so I went around this like curve. There's like fields on either side and there were two like herds of deer. And I was just kind of like crawling at this point because I was like, what the fuck is going on? I'm crawling along and these deer are just running straight alongside my car, and up ahead of my car, like in the road, there was like, I don't even know what it was. It was like a bunch of tiny little white birds, like white feathered guardian angel, but it was like no birds I'd ever seen before. I cannot figure out what kind of bird it was. They were just little tiny little white birds fluttering all over, like like that. That's where it was like I was like driving, like you know what I mean? My words, I can't even make the words, whatever. Your guardian. Take time to reflect. Okay. And I don't know, this is something that like I've always, it's just kind of like, you know how when you're just a medium, you just do shit like that and it becomes like an average Tuesday? And people are like, why don't you talk? And I'm like, if you heard, and I'm just kidding. But now they're like, wait, remember that. Take time to reflect. So, if you're in this collective, you probably didn't do that exact same thing, but you probably did discover one of your gifts. So, take time to like think about any similarities, okay? I think that's where this deck comes in. So reflect on like, I don't know, I don't want to say how far you've come, but I mean, I keep seeing a bunch of stupid TikToks that are like, you are gonna get a gift. Somebody's sending you a gift. When you're getting like information like that from spirit, spirit is not always talking about fucking material. Spirit isn't in the 3D. So if you're hearing you're getting a new gift because you did something fucking amazing, it's spiritual. Okay, and if like you're coming into abundance, it's not always like, oh, I'm gonna get rich overnight. Because in like the spirit realm, your knowledge is the currency. So you're gonna like maybe have a revelation, and that's the gift. Because we're out here trying to help them. We, in a sense, are like the bridge between the spirit world and the humans. And so they need us just as much as we need them. Because not everybody can see them, not everybody can recognize them, and not everybody is able to like reflect and actually reflect on things that have happened. Like, I think everybody has had like a random experience where they got a little spooked one time and they thought they saw something and it wasn't there, and let's like, but a lot of people push that away, and not many people just embrace it. And with this, yeah, it's because a lot of people are like scared of demons. They see like their Christian sibling, or their, you know what I mean, like we're all from a Christian background, and so when we start doing tarot, like we're all like, it's like the response we get is like, oh my god, you're talking to demons, and we're like, yes, and but it's like in a way that we are able to like make it make sense. I was thinking last night about like physics and quantum physics and all that shit, and I'm like, think about it, remember that like age old saying in science that energy isn't created or destroyed, it can only change form. So like what happens when somebody dies, their energy doesn't just end, it changes form. And that's why we have the spirit world, because that's kind of what I like this card. It's like there's like a spiral cycle with like things we see, and like the night and the day, and there's night and day and things we can see, but there's like all of this in between, if that makes sense. I can't really figure out the exact words, but yeah, and it's like, even it doesn't need to be like, a lot of us when we started learning about spirituality, it was like 3 to 5, those are the witching hours, those are when the veil is thin. The veil is as thin as you make it. Okay, like, I don't really feel like, I think the only reason it would be between 3 and 5 is when the veil is thin. It's because it's when the rest of the world is quiet and you can sit down and fucking think, and you're like more alert. You can hear more sounds because there aren't other sounds. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I did this healing spell in broad daylight, like, and so it's not like spooky things come out at night. It's not like we need to be afraid of the shadows, because the shadows are out in the day. And shadows, we teach our kids from the beginning that, like, what shadows are. Or like almost losing the channel, but also it's like there's like a bigger piece that I'm like not quite grasping. I'm gonna take a minute and like I'm gonna like pause this, and I'll probably just upload it as like this because it will take less time. So this will just be part 1, okay?